Operation Grim Beeper by Michael Behagen. Prologue. On Saturday, October 7, 2023, a coordinated surprise attack was launched from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel. Thousands of armed infiltrators, including militants, gangs, and others, crossed the border by land, motorbike, truck, and glider. Equipped with rifles, drones, and explosives, they assaulted civilian towns and military outposts alike. The most harrowing scene unfolded at the Nova Music Festival near Kibbutz Reim. A celebration turned massacre. Hundreds of young people were murdered. Dozens of women were assaulted and killed in acts of unspeakable violence. That day, more than 1,000 people lost their lives, men and women, soldiers and civilians, children and elders. Thousands more were injured. Hundreds were abducted into Gaza. Many are still held to this day in underground tunnels. The perpetrators often filmed their acts. A second front opened the very next day. Rockets fired from Lebanon struck Israel's north. Hezbollah had joined the war. Border communities were evacuated. What began as a single-day attack spread across the region and far beyond. In the shadows, an operation long in the making was set into motion. For years, Israel's intelligence agency, the Mossad, had been preparing technologies and plans to counter the growing threat posed by Hezbollah. The Iranian-backed militant group remained committed to Israel's destruction. The trigger had come. The moment had arrived. This novel tells the story of a secret mission known as Operation Grim Beeper. A covert action executed with speed, deception, and devastating precision. Its aim was to disable Hezbollah's communications and command structure in a single blow. The political and human consequences of this operation would echo far beyond its moment of impact. Chapter 1: The Nova. Israel, Reimri Junction, 2.5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. The Nova Party Saturday, October 7, 2023, 2:40 a.m. The night, shrouded in trance music, went on endlessly as if time had suddenly abandoned its dictatorial rule, compelled to abdicate in favor of some unknown force, and simply vanished. I could feel my entire being moving on its own, with no need to flex a single muscle. The powerful bass competed with the beat of my heart, the notes pulsing deep within my soul. From them I drew the energy that propelled me. Nothing else was needed. Crowds of young people danced as one, swept away on a mesmerizing musical journey. They swayed and sang, worshiping their youth, their DJs, and the astonishing blooms of early October, as if there were no tomorrow. A profound sense of unity with everything around me settled deep within. It was a wedding ceremony between humanity and nature, the stars above forming a bridal canopy. The magical environment, far from the bustle of the metropolis, embraced us, an open space surrounded by lush vegetation and towering trees. The night air imparted a cool, gentle shiver. I felt my feet move instinctively to the hypnotic rhythm of the bass, accompanied by endless electronic medleys that split each beat into 16 parts, drawing near, vanishing, and returning again in new forms and frequencies. Chapter 2: Fadi. Lebanon, Beirut, Rafik Hariri. Hospital, Wednesday, June 25, 2025, 3 a.m. My son will never see me again, and I will never see him. I will never hold him in my arms. Never kiss his cheek as he drifts into sleep. Never stand at the threshold of his room in those quiet moments before dawn, returning from the hidden hills where I now wander, just as the horizon begins to soften into light, and watch him sleep, wrapped in the innocent dream of a child. He is not dead. He is alive. He is here in Beirut, 3 kilometers away from me. It's me. I'm the one who is dead. I gave his mother clear instructions. Tell Hassan I was one of the dead in the explosion on that terrible day. Tell him I became a martyr. Then take him to the hill where the wind blows toward Palestine and say, "This is where your father is buried." Let your hand drift in a slow pirouette between the soil and Palestine. And when he grows older and I am truly gone, bury me there, beneath the olive tree. Let my body and soul feed its roots. Go there with him once a year. Let him speak to me. Then let him listen to what I have to say to him. After that, let each of you pick 7 olives from the tree. Sit together beneath its branches. Bring the first one to your mouth. Let its bitterness linger on your tongue before you swallow. Then say to him, "This is your father." I never gave her a map, but she chose well. A quiet hill on the slopes of Al-Qiyam, facing south, toward the blurred outline of Palestine. A land we never touched, but that always called to us through the haze, like a flag planted beyond a dream. The first time she brought him there, her hand trembled. He whispered, "Baba," and she cried, as if mourning a man who had vanished so that no one would ever have to see what remained of him. Chapter 3. Haggai's Diaries. Israel, Mossad Headquarters, Ramat HaSharon. An entry from the Journal of Haggai, head of the Technology Division, Thursday, May 12, 2016, 2:04 a.m. The corridor was quiet. A sense of fatigue hung in the air. From the window, the lights of Tel Aviv shimmered in the distance. On the desk before me, a few folders still waited to be reviewed. My screensaver hadn't changed in over an hour. A photo of Nurit standing in a blooming anemone field in the northern Negev, her arms wrapped around Edamar's waist. Noah stood behind them, silent and withdrawn, as always. A flower she had picked was tucked into her hair. Nurit and Edamar were smiling. She wasn't. I remember the exact moment I took that picture. I said, "Noah, how about a smile?" She replied, "Dad, I am smiling. Those who can see, will see." I closed the file labeled FRD7, Drone Cell Number Interface for Kinetic Deployment. At that hour, I preferred hard copy. Tired eyes needed ink on paper. The door opened without warning. It was Maya, a young intelligence officer who had joined the department 4 months earlier. She had quickly become a rising star, a key link to Unit 8200, specializing in cyber, electronic surveillance, and code breaking. "Is it okay that I just came in without knocking?" "There are 4 people I don't mind doing that," I repeated. No need to tell her she was one of them. Something in her trembled, not from fear, but from urgency. Her eyes were too awake, too focused. "I didn't know you were still here," I said. "Can I sit down?" Permission to enter means permission to sit. She sat with quiet ease, her body knowing the chair and the room, like they remembered her. "I want to go back to last week's meeting, the walkie-talkie one." The walkie-talkie op had started long before my time. Back in the years when I was still busy wrapping up the exit that not only secured me financially for life, but also made the Mossad call me in for a meeting, after years of an on-again, off-again romance. Seemingly innocent walkie-talkie devices were sold to Hezbollah. Hidden in their batteries was a small explosive charge, primed for explosion via radio code. "Have they already been distributed to field units?" Maya asked. "As far as I know, most of them are still lying in Hezbollah storage facilities." "That's what's bothering me," she said. Instead of letting her face show concern, she smiled. In what sense? That they're just stacked there. In storage. Maybe they'll distribute them, maybe not. Even if they do, it's still just an operational device. It's not personal enough. What are you talking about, Maya? This isn't just smart. It's legendary. Do you know how much we invested? The concept of hiding explosives inside the battery was born right here, around this very desk. I'm sure it's not the investment that impresses you, but the potential impact. Absolutely, I said. Every unit will get one. They'll be out of storage in no time. She still looked unconvinced. I'd be happier if we could do it through their phones, she said abruptly. I see, but if you want to bell the cat, who's going to tie it on? She waited for me to go on. Maya, with the walkie-talkies, we got them to buy in bulk, 15,000 units. ICOM, model ICV82. You can't do that with smartphones. Everyone has their own model. Samsung, Nokia, Xiaomi, Huawei, Apple, Tecno, Infinix, Motorola, LG, BLU, Alcatel. Even cheap burners from the market. We can't control it. There's no universal standard. But what if we convince them to switch to a single model? Tell them it's more secure, tamper-proof, unsackable. Maybe even built on old hardware. They might believe that. Brilliant idea. Impossible, but brilliant. Particularly at this hour of night. I appreciate that. How you always make even the dumbest ideas sound like they're brilliant. I smiled at her. I don't think you're capable of saying something dumb. That's sweet. If you knew me better, you'd know just how much nonsense I talk. Then, almost in the same breath, she added, What about pagers? Pagers. I see you're eager to show your nonsense theory in real time. No, I was being completely serious. You really think they'll go back to the Stone Age? Absolutely, Haggai. They're headed there already. It's the perfect device for them and, of course, for us. It's not in a drawer, it's on them. All the time. Close to the chest. Sometimes even under their clothes. When a message comes in, they hold it close, 8 inches from the eyes. I said nothing. She looked at me. The more they realize how deep 8,200 are inside their phones, the more they'll seek out dumb solutions. No tracking, no camera, no GPS, no SIM, and not without reason. They'll believe it's safer. There's no substitute for a smartphone. They're addicted, just like we are. You're wrong. Sooner or later, Nasrallah will tell them to ditch smartphones and go back to something primitive. I exhaled slowly. My smile had faded somewhere between doubt and clarity. I looked at her, really looked, and she was already there, meeting my eyes. I'm going to write a preliminary proposal on how to make them want the pagers. On the first page of the appendix, I'll include your warm recommendation. I raised an eyebrow. In bold, I hope, and underlined. That's the least I can do after endorsing nonsense in real time. Her eyes drifted toward the screensaver. You have beautiful children. She didn't ask me to turn the screen. Instead, she walked over to my side to see it. Now she was standing next to me. I caught her scent. Clean, subtle, unobtrusive, impossible to ignore. As you can see, I said quietly, no thanks to me. When was this taken? Back when they still thought their dad was worth admiring. She stayed there a second too long. I need to get back to work. How old are they now? 14 and 10. She lingered another second. Time to sit down and write the proposal. Not tonight, Maya. Go home. To whoever is waiting for you. Do it tomorrow. It can wait. Are you sure? What in God's name is she seeing that I'm not? She turned and walked toward the door. Then she stopped. When are you leaving? I'll head out soon. Just need to finish this, I said, pointing at the binders. Good night. She paused for a second at the door. I'm glad you decided someone's waiting for me, she said, and closed the door behind her. I took a deep breath. Her scent still lingered in the air. Chapter 4: The Flower Girl. Israel, Rhyme Junction, Nova Music Festival. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 3 a.m. I can't quite recall how I found myself dancing in front of her. Was it she who, as she swayed, narrowed the distance between us? Was it me? Perhaps neither of us intended it. Perhaps it was all by chance. All I know is that I had closed my eyes for a fraction of a second, trying to focus on what the sound waves from the huge subwoofer in front of me were doing to my chest, without letting my sense of sight interfere. When I opened them, I found her there, in front of me. It was immediately clear that, of the 3,000 people at the party, she was the crown jewel. Her eyes were closed, as if in prayer, and she moved with effortless grace. Her body responded freely to the trance beat, light and unbound, as though gravity had no claim on her. Her flowing hair blended with the bright lights, forming a kind of hypnotic halo. On her breast pocket bloomed a flower, with large white petals and a yellow pistil. There was no denying it. A true flower girl. Her airy outfit fluttered with each movement of her hands. She looked like a mystical forest nymph emerging from the depths of night, dancing as if the world had vanished. The music was the only reality. Her presence was magnetic. A few young people drifted around her, not quite dancing with her, but drawn into her orbit, occasionally glancing to see if she noticed. She did not seem to mind. The way she connected with the music, the space, and the people around her was a living embodiment of unity, freedom, and the collective pulse at the heart of the trance festival. She reminded me of the Woodstock girls. Girls from a fading era who stirred in me a strange, aching longing. Her liberated presence awakened the carefree and idealistic spirit my father had spoken of with shining eyes. It felt as if she had been transported straight from the tail end of the 60s to land here, at Rhyme Junction, carrying with her the essence of a generation that chose brotherhood, peace, and music instead of the rumble of mortars and bombs. Israel, Highway 4 south of Beit Lid. Thursday, May 12, 2016, 3:08. The road was almost empty. Strips of asphalt stretched beneath the yellow streetlights, and a few cars passed silently in the opposite direction. The radio was off. The windows were sealed. Inside the vehicle, absolute silence reigned. A guy's eyes moved alternately between the road, the side mirror, and the shoulders of the highway. Every drive was, for him, a practice in vigilance, not only to fight fatigue. He knew very well that he was one of the most coveted targets for the enemy. What he had forgotten, others had never even learned. And he had forgotten nothing. His gaze shifted from the mirror back to the road, scanning the opposite lane. Who was following? Who slowed just ahead? Who sped up behind? Who overtook and stared a second too long? Finally, he reached his neighborhood. The street was quiet. He didn't notice the patrol car. Security teams conducted nightly rounds near his house, in unmarked vehicles at irregular hours, always discreet. Still, a guy would have recognized them instantly. No light shone from the neighbors' windows, and the street showed no sign of life. The double garage had 2 doors, designed to avoid a situation where an interior door opened directly to the street. He pressed the remote and opened the outer, gated door. He slid inside and waited for it to close. Then he pressed another button on the same remote and opened the inner garage door. The gate rose with a soft hum. He drove in slowly, careful not to rev the engine, not to disturb the fragile silence. Haggai's house, Zermosha. Thursday, May 12, 2016, 3:34. He didn't get out right away. The garage door closed slowly behind him. He waited in the dark. He stepped out of the car. To enter his home, he had to pass through two reinforced doors. One led from the garage into the building, the other from the hallway into the living room. Itamar's little shoes and Noah's old rubber flip-flops lay by the entrance. The house was quiet. A dim light shone from the kitchen. Haggai tried to read the silence for signs of wakefulness. He passed Itamar's room. The door was wide open. Itamar sat with headphones on, hunched forward, PlayStation controller in hand. "Good evening," Haggai said with a smile. He stepped in and stood beside his son. Itamar turned his head slightly, almost imperceptibly. Despite the headphones, despite the action, he sensed his father's presence. On the screen, an armed figure crawled through rubble. Green reticle lines hovered over painted enemies. Silent gunfire, a perfect simulation of battle. Reality had long ago stopped looking more real than this. He doesn't realize who's in control. "I'll finish the story for him soon," he muttered. "Of course you will." Haggai stroked his son's head and walked away. Noah's door was closed, but light spilled from the crack. She was still awake. What was going on in this house so early in the morning? He knocked gently. "Yes, Dad?" She lay on her bed and removed her headphones. "It's a quiet section, so I heard the knock." "You don't need to apologize for letting me in. What are you listening to?" "Guess." She held the headphones in her hands. He leaned closer. The signal was faint. Then he heard the harpsichord. "Scarborough Fair." "Beautiful, Dad." "Noah, I know tomorrow is a day off, but still. Isn't it a bit late?" She smiled and placed the headphones back on. The conversation was over. It was the longest exchange he had with her in weeks. When exactly had he lost them? Everything had moved too fast. Time had sped up. He used to think routine made the days fly by. But even now, when storms and chaos pulled life, time still rushed forward without breaks. At the end of the hallway, where the light barely reached, stood an old wooden shelf. On it sat some of Itamar's Lego sets. A gentle wave of sorrow rose in him. Just yesterday, they had been the boy's world, and his. At the front stood a massive white dragon, built from hundreds of tiny pieces. Its mouth still gaped open, tail raised high. When had that been? 4 years ago. Maybe 5. Tonight, the dragon looked like a skeleton on the verge of collapse. Discarded. A relic. The only terror it stirred was the thought of counting backward, trying to predict the moment when Itamar's patience and tenderness for him would finally run out, and he too would be thrown in the trash. The bond with the children had once been his center. Now it was fading, especially with Noah. Sometimes, on quiet Saturday mornings, he heard her speaking softly with Nurit, her voice lowered in that unmistakable tone of sharing something meant for them alone. The moment he entered the kitchen, the conversation stopped. That silence hurt more than any scream. "You know," he had once said to Noah, "I know how to keep a secret too." He had smiled at her. Genuine, almost shy. She never asked what he did or where he worked. But she wasn't naive. She knew what wasn't said. He had told no one at home that he belonged not only to the top secret circle, but to a group of 12 whose classification was too high to appear in any file. 3 days later, maybe so as not to hurt his feelings, she shared with him a message from a close friend. He listened, grateful, and said, "I'm sure it's temporary. You'll be friends again." He ruined it. Her smile vanished. "Dad, you don't understand. I want nothing to do with her. It's over." Nurit was asleep. Haggai didn't turn on the light. He undressed, changed into a swimsuit, and stepped out to the pool. He turned on the soft blue interior lights, leaving the surroundings in darkness. He stood at the edge of the water, watching it for a long moment. These were his favorite minutes of the day. He rinsed off with lukewarm water so the plunge wouldn't be too sharp. Then he dove in. The first touch was cool, but the water gave way. It wrapped around him, and within seconds it held him, as if it had never been cold. He began with a slow breaststroke, then shifted to a stronger crawl. The pool lights blurred with the ripples, as if they too had lost their grip on shape and time. Israel, Ream Junction, the Nova Party. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 3:23 a.m. Did she really see me? I assumed she had wandered into my space by accident, and that any second now partner would appear and join her. I was grateful for the brief moment she had entered my orbit, like a spotlight, filling it with her presence and lighting it from within. Then something happened. Unexpected. She turned in my direction, her eyes opened, and her lips curved into a smile. I was gazing at a universe I didn't recognize. Her body, which had never stopped moving, shifted fully toward me. There was no longer any doubt. And right then, I said to myself, literally said, if there is a paradise on earth, this is it. Right here, in front of me. I adjusted to her movements, and the world around us disappeared, melted, evaporated. It was just the two of us dancing through celestial nova that transcended time and space. I tried to make sense of it. Could it be that, amid all this celebration, she had sensed something within my little corner of the universe? Something that pulled her closer? I was a terrible dancer. I had no rhythm, no sense of style. And as for my looks, I had never been the kind of guy girls gave a second glance. I had never made it to the end of a party with anyone by my side. It always took a mountain of humor and cleverness for anyone to even notice me. Chapter 5. The Seder Night. Israel Mossad Buildings, Ramat Hasharon, Monday, April 22, 2024, 9:07 p.m. The Passover Seder was in full swing. The large hall was filled to capacity. Dozens of senior officials, department heads, and their families sat around tables dressed in holiday attire. Matzot were laid carefully on white napkins. Glasses of wine were filled. Small children sat on their parents' laps. It was the first time a Passover Seder had ever been held here, in the heart of the Mossad. The rabbi invited to lead the ceremony rose from his seat. We are about to recite Vehi She'amda. We will sing it with joy, even with pride. But have you ever truly listened to the words? What exactly is it that stood for our fathers and for us? That in every generation someone rises up to destroy us? Is that what we are celebrating? He looked slowly around the room. It's almost unbearable. And yet, like humans always do, we soften the truth. We explain it away. We tell ourselves they don't really mean to destroy. That it's complicated. That it's political. Or marginal. Or not personal. But the question remains, is this hatred truly eternal? In every generation? He straightened his back. But this is not anti-Semitism. not in the literal sense. If we go by the word itself, anti-Semitism should mean hatred of all descendants of Shem, son of Noah. And that is clearly not their intent. So many of those who hate us come from that very same lineage. Amalek came from there. Midian came from there. It is not a matter of race, nor of nationhood. It runs much deeper. It is not anti-Semitism. It is anti-infinity. A rebellion against the infinite. A war against the very idea called Israel. Not the state, the essence. And if Israel contains within it even a spark of the divine, then this hatred is not only aimed at us. It is aimed at the infinity we represent. He paused, letting the silence settle. Then he went on. Now I will tell you what is truly infinite. Holy is the Blessed One, the Torah, and Israel. They are one. He let the ancient words echo through the hall. And it is so difficult to accept that this happens in every generation. And that very difficulty, our resistance to believe, is what makes us forget. Again and again. And then the Holy One, blessed be He, performs a miracle. Do you know how? With their hands. They themselves remind us. We told ourselves that if we became like everyone else, they would stop wanting to destroy us. A Jew at home, a man in the street. And then came enlightened Europe and burned that illusion to the ground. We established a state, and we believed the Holocaust would never repeat itself. And then came Simchat Torah, the year 2023, October 7th, and suddenly we understood. Nothing had changed. He looked toward the head of the table. That is why I feel the need to say these things here, in this place, at the edge of human courage, ingenuity, and cunning. And it is precisely here that we will now sing Vehi Shamda. Not as a song of innocent hope, but as a declaration of power, of presence, of an unshakable faith in who we are. He sat down, and for a long moment, silence filled the room. Then one voice began to sing, then another, and another, until the entire hall echoed with the ancient words. Lebanon, Beirut, Rafik Hariri Hospital. Tuesday, July 1st, 2025, 5:10 p.m. Noor stood by his bed. The walls were bathed in the yellow of late afternoon, a kind of pale gold that made the air feel thick and slow. The curtain was half drawn, and the shadow of the bed's metal bars stretched diagonally across the floor. He lay on his side, his back to her, one shoulder exposed, masculine, but slack. His skin was a shade darker, marked by a sun that had long since disappeared. A faint scar ran diagonally from his shoulder to his neck. His hair, neatly trimmed, had begun to gray at the sides. His hands looked like they once held a weapon, or a child, or both. Now they no longer served either purpose. She pulled out a small piece of cotton wool, dipped it in warm water, and gently laid it across one eyelid, wrapped in gauze. A subtle tremor passed through his body. 2 days earlier, he had whispered in clear Arabic, "Don't touch me when I'm not ready." This time, he said nothing. Slowly, she removed the bandages from his eyes, what used to be eyes, and left behind dark, red hollows. She finished the cleansing, applied ointment, and carefully placed fresh gauze. Then she rested her hand on his shoulder. Her palm was still. Her body heat moved into him like a quiet current of electricity. She stayed there a moment longer, and then heard him whisper, "I see you." His voice wasn't broken, but it carried a deep sadness. "You're half a head taller than me, and you lean forward slightly when you speak. Your left hand has one long finger, which is why you hold the scissors in that strange way. You wear clothes that are too clean for someone who tends to wounds, But every night, you sit here. Even when no one sees. You're not Arab, but not entirely foreign either. You pray without words. I don't yet know to whom. You hold your breath when I wake. And once, in the middle of the night, I heard you cry. Your face is long but soft. Your eyes are the color of dark honey, like leaves wet with the first rain. When my wife comes to visit every morning and evening, you look at her with a gaze I've never been able to decipher. When you're hurt, your right eye shifts to the side. There's a faint line at the corner of your lips. Lust, or maybe hatred too, like mine. And without knowing why, her mother's old sentence echoed in her mind like a broken bell. He who gives up hatred remains naked. Israel, Mossad Buildings. An entry from the Journal of Haggai, head of the Technology Division. Sunday, January 16, 2022, 8:46 a.m. I skimmed through the intelligence report that had been placed on my desk. A distorted headline, printed in uneven letters as if photographed with an old camera, immediately caught my eye. Nasrallah warns against using smartphones. I paused and read it again. Secret. In a speech he gave this week, Nasrallah called on his operatives to abandon their phones. According to him, this is a religious and halakhic obligation. Israel doesn't need to place agents along the roads. There are cameras connected to the internet, and Israel sees everything. We must return to primitive and secure communication. The report carved open an old memory. A night of silence I had carried for 6 years. And the scent of a soft, nearly imperceptible perfume. I saw her again walking into my office at 2 in the morning without knocking. I could hear her voice clearly, still unshaken by time or sentiment. "What about pagers?" she asked. I pressed the flat button beneath my desk. Gally came in. "What happened to Maya?" "Who?" "That officer. From intelligence. She was with us in 2016. Oh, that beautiful redhead who never stopped asking when you'd be in the office." "Gally, if she asked that, it was only for professional reasons. You're the last person I need to explain that to. So don't explain. It sounds like an apology. She started a startup a few years ago, something in data classification. I think she got married." Good, I told myself. There had been some late-night flirting between us, but it was always clear it would lead nowhere. It simply wasn't right on any level. I need current and accurate information. Gally returned 3 minutes later. She was on the CTO's watch list until 28, then she left the Army. In 2019, she founded Clearline. They develop software that ranks relevant information for decision makers. She's the co-CEO. Most of their work is with the IDF. Get her on the line for me, please. Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, 11 a.m. Maya walked into the room. No knock, of course, and for a moment, the 5 years dissolved, and something forgotten had quietly come back. "How are you?" I asked. "A lot of pressure at work," she said. "And you? How are things at home?" "There's no change. Everything is calm." "Still got the same screensaver," she smiled. "Your daughter should have been out of the Army by now, if I'm doing the math right." "She never enlisted." "What happened?" "She didn't want to serve. She chose national service instead, working as a youth leader for children with adjustment and learning difficulties." Beautiful, no less important. "Thank you, but you know it wasn't easy for me." She said, "Dad, I want to contribute. Really contribute." I told her she's amazing, talented, and that I could find her a role in the Army where her impact would be meaningful. And then she said something. What did she say? "Dad, I want to contribute, but not be like you." A quiet pause settled between us. How long has she known? Maya asked. I never told her. I saw it in her face, the way she was trying to measure the hurt. So I wasn't surprised when she asked, "What did you feel?" She's a very special soul. If you met her, she's still there, on the kibbutz. It's good for her. Her trainees adore her. But come on, we're here to talk about you. I heard about the company. What exactly do you do? We filter noise. The bottom line is shielding the top from a flood of data and false alarms. She took a breath, then spoke in a steady, precise flow. The algorithm identifies recurring patterns, correlates anomalies, and classifies each piece of information based on its relevance to the decision maker. Only information that meets thresholds of importance, reliability, and urgency moves forward. Everything else is retained, but doesn't overwhelm the top. The system knows how to distinguish real alerts from background noise, political chatter, or irrelevant input. How does it do that? It performs multi-layered comparisons with precedent databases, maps incoming data in real time against existing alert clusters, and analyzes probability trajectories based on delay scenarios. It quantifies risk vectors against potential impact, uses weighted scoring models, and generates recommendations using contextual pattern recognition and iterative learning over time. And in the end, what tips the balance? The numbers or your instinct? She smiled. The numbers don't lie, but sometimes I decide what to ask them. There was a short silence. I said, I missed you. The door opening at 2 a.m. without knocking. She paused, then said, In the end, I was the only one who ever opened it. I heard you got married. That's exactly the startup I founded, she said. I don't follow. How to sift baseless rumors from actual information, she explained. Then added, we parted on good terms. Dror and I, we were not right for any kind of relationship possible in this universe. Suddenly she looked at me in surprise. You look disappointed. I was sure you called me here because you missed me. Of course I missed you, Maya. But someone else missed you too. I turned the classified report toward her and said, Nasrallah is banning the use of smartphones. She went over the text. Her face didn't change. Just a subtle movement of the eyes, right to left. I owe you an apology. She looked up at me, and a smile appeared on her lips for the first time since she came in. Yes, without a doubt, it was a smile of victory, and she had earned it honestly. Pagers are crawling out of prehistory and into the spotlight, I added. She had seen it long before anyone else, but never once said, I told you so. So I said it for her. Maya, it wasn't just a gut feeling. It was a prophecy, and it's coming true. She leaned back, quiet. That window of opportunity you talked about is happening now. I want you to lead the project. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes scanned the document again. Haggai. Clearland is the baby I've been developing for 3 years, she said. I have a team. I have a product. We're in the middle of a sensitive pilot. Me leaving now could be a disaster. The disaster would be if you don't join me. This is a project they'll study in history books. I don't see how I can do it. I'll give our VC fund, Libertad, a clear directive to support you in every way. Whatever you need. Maya, I missed you once. I won't miss you again. I need a week to see if it's possible, she said, smiled at me, and left as suddenly as she had entered. Lebanon Bint Jbeil, South Lebanon, Friday, May 26, 2000, 4:02 p.m. He took the stage in broad daylight in the heart of the Shiite village. The technicians unfurled sound cables, and the crowd roared his name. Hassan Nasrallah stood on the podium, in a black galabeah, a soft smile on his lips. Then he began, in a quiet voice, I seek refuge in God from Satan, the accursed. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. Peace and blessings be upon our Lord and Prophet, the seal of the prophets, Abu al-Qasim Muhammad bin Abdullah, and upon his pure family, his chosen and gracious companions, and upon all the prophets and messengers. Brothers and sisters, honorable gathering, peace, mercy, and God's blessings be upon you all. Today we stand here on free land, land that was soaked in holy blood, land that the occupier trod on with his boots for years, land that has known suffering, resistance, dedication, and victory. Today it is clean. Israel withdrew, without achieving anything, without setting conditions, without signing agreements. It did not leave out of compassion, but out of fear. It did not leave as one who holds power, but like the escape of a thief in the night, like the escape of a hunted animal. This is not only our victory, it is a mark of disgrace to our enemies. This departure proves that resistance pays off, that the person who believes, who sacrifices, can overcome a well-oiled machine of war. There are those who still claim that Israel is invincible, that it is a mountain, that it is a regional empire. But Israel is not a giant. It is a hollow entity. It has tanks, it has planes, it has nuclear weapons, but it does not have a strong heart. It does not have a fighting soul. In its heart lies fear. Zionist society is not a society of warriors. It is not willing to die, not willing to suffer, not willing to pay a price. It comes to enjoy, to live a comfortable life, to consume, to have fun, to bask in the fragrance of abundance. But when death comes, it disappears. It flees. It disintegrates. Israel is weaker than a spider's web. Yes, it has nuclear weapons. Yes, it has an army. But its fighting spirit is dead. A small breath is enough, and everything collapses. Not because of the magnitude of the losses, but because of the weakness of the heart. Men and boys, ordinary people fought against them, and they could not stand it. Our youth grew up on hope, on faith, on a willingness to sacrifice. They knew the price, and they paid. And our society, with the pain burned in its heart, did not break. But in Israel, every blow is an earthquake. Every soldier who falls brings down a government. They check every step in the polls. They are not willing to pay the price of war. Such a country will not last long. Such a country will crumble. Today I tell you clearly, this enemy, who thought himself a mountain, is nothing but a web of spider webs. And if you touch it, it will be torn. And the wind will carry it. And it will scatter. And it will disappear. Israel, Ream Junction, the Nova Party. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 3:50 a.m. Could it be that she had sensed something else? An invisible thread connecting our souls? A pull stronger than attraction? Something ancient? Eternal? Why was she there, in front of me? Her eyes shimmered with inner fire, reflecting the pulse of the music. Her movements were a mystical fusion of passion and peace. Every gesture told a story, a tale of a soul lost in trance. A testament to the hypnotic, boundless, transcendent power of music. The mysteries of the night were stirring, and the enchanted dancer still chose the space in front of me. A cosmic twist that defied explanation. Clearly, there's been a mistake. Everything belongs in this fairy tale. Everything but me. Israel, Mossad Buildings, Ramat Hasharon, Monday, March 7th, 2022, 7:17 p.m. Haggai entered the office of Dedi, the head of the Mossad. The small, primitive device in Haggai's hand seemed oddly out of place, almost absurd, considering that under his leadership some of the most advanced technologies and modern intelligence had been developed. Dedi glanced up with a smile. A souvenir from high school? Exactly. And here's another one. Haggai turned toward the door. Maya entered, holding a dark yellow binder. Dedi stood to greet her. They shook hands. First time I've seen you in civilian clothes. Glad to have you back. I'm happy to be here. By the way, 8200 is very impressed with the pilot you're running with them. Maya nodded. There may have been a flicker of a smile on her face, but one had to look closely to catch it. Haggai opened the meeting. Pager, he said, pointing to the device. He paused, then continued. Maya said that word 6 years ago, when she was a young officer here. I laughed then. Today, I laugh a little less. The pagers are back, and she saw it before anyone else. Dedi rested his chin on the back of his hand and studied the pager. Are we talking about the walkie-talkie principle? Haggai rotated the device between his fingers. Yes, but this time, not in the warehouses. Much closer to the heart. Every mid-level operative and above will receive a pager. That's 5,000 units. They haven't made a decision yet, said Dedi. I confirmed that before the meeting. Maya responded immediately. They'll decide in the next few days. They have no choice. They're phasing out communication through phones. We're offering them something that feels safe to them. Dumb, old, seemingly harmless, and effective. Haggai added, they've already purchased several hundred pagers over the past 3 years, from a Taiwanese company. Gold Apollo, Dedi said. They can't buy from anywhere else. Only from China or Taiwan. All other markets are closed to them. He looked again at the pager. Haggai, you're bringing this into the family, into the home, into the kitchen, into the bedroom. What about an innocent third party? Do they even exist? Maya asked. A child who wants to play with his father's pager. Let him find other games. Haggai opened the binder Maya had brought, pulled out a diagram, and laid it on the table. The amount of explosive will harm only the user. A fatal injury, either to the stomach or to the face, depending on whether he decides to view the message. Peripheral damage will be between 4 and 5%. No more. Dedi glanced over the records, then rose from his chair and walked to the window. He stood there, staring out, frozen like stone, as if time itself had stopped around him. For several seconds, no one in the room moved. The silence was absolute. They have close to 200,000 missiles, Dedi said, his voice low but firm. Some of them are accurate to within 30 meters. The destructive power they can unleash on Israel is equivalent to at least 2 Hiroshima bombs, maybe more. We must deliver them a decisive blow, one that will change the equation. He turned his gaze to Haggai. You have immediate approval to begin work on the prototype. Thank you, said Maya. This falls under Haggai's department, which is excellent. At the same time, I'd like to begin coordinating operations with our partners in Europe. We cannot afford to waste time. You have the go-ahead. What will you call the operation? Maya didn't hesitate. Blind faith. Why? She was already near the door. She stopped, turned to face him, and said, because this will be the last message they ever see. Israel, Ream Junction, the Nova Party. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 5:54 a.m. I don't remember how long we danced like that. It must have been an eternity. I noticed the first hints of light rising in the east. I was afraid the dawn would reveal what I didn't want revealed. I had no desire for the darkness to release its grip or for the magic to dissolve. I knew the dim light was working in my favor. I didn't want the night to end. Just then, an old song began to play in my head. I tried to block out the original melody by Mati Caspi and let the immortal lyrics by Yehuda Shavit fuse with the trance beat around us. I'm done for tonight. I want the night. I don't want the night to end. I don't want the night to end. I don't want to have to lose anything. Nothing. I don't want anything left. Nothing. Burj al-Barajneh Camp, South Beirut. Tuesday, July 20th, 1999, 4:45 p.m. Fadi was 10 years old. On that sweltering Lebanese afternoon, the Burj al-Barajneh camp was filled with the smells of cooking oil, dust, and barefoot children. He played with an empty tin can that had become a ball. Laundry flapped above him like kites on limp strings. The uncle sat in the shade and said the kind of things desperate men say. In the distance, the low rumble of motorcycles began to grow. Fadi straightened. The sound drew closer, raising clouds of dust as it entered the camp. 3 black-clad, armed riders charged down the alley. The children jumped back. The tin can was kicked away and disappeared into the dust. Then he saw it. The yellow flag. Bright, shaking. A green fist holding a rifle, rising against a background of Arabic letters. Fadi could not yet read, but something in the flag's motion, its color, its force, held him there. His feet wouldn't move. He heard one of the men mutter, "Hezbollah's already entered here." For the first time, Fadi felt something unfamiliar in his chest. Not fear, something else. Curiosity, perhaps. Maybe jealousy, maybe hope. That evening he asked his grandfather, "Grandpa, do they also want to liberate Palestine?" His grandfather answered in a rough voice, "Everyone says yes, but for now, we're staying here." That night, Fadi couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the yellow flag waving behind his eyelids. An entry from Haggai's journal, head of the technology division. Somewhere between memory and silence. Time and place unknown. I met Nurit in the orchestra dining room in Manali. I was 22, just about to graduate in electrical engineering. She had just completed a yoga teacher training course in Himachal Pradesh. She was sitting on the floor at a low table, eating dal bhat with a small spoon. And I, as always, was trying to disassemble and reassemble something. This time it was an old still camera I had bought in Delhi, an Olympus Trip 35. A simple camera with a good lens, but the light meter had started to fail, and the shutter was stuck at a single speed. Every frame came out burned or dark. That usually happens when the button battery isn't seated properly, or when the spring in the battery housing is bent. I gently removed the battery cover, bent the metal slightly to improve contact, cleaned the terminals with an air tube, and put everything back in place. The camera powered on. The needle on the light meter started to move again. She saw me fiddling with the camera and asked if I could explain hers. A digital camera she had bought a week earlier. She pulled it from her bag, a Kodak EasyShare CX4230. 2 megapixels, 3 times optical zoom, and a complicated menu. We sat there for a full hour as I showed her how to turn off the flash, select ISO, and activate spot metering. I taught her how to switch between landscape and portrait modes, how to delete a photo without erasing the entire memory card, and how to use the 10-second timer so she could appear in the frame as well. She asked how I knew all this, and I half-jokingly replied, I was a subscriber to Mariv for Youth. They had a column for young technicians. She smiled, but didn't let go. Do you like taking pictures? No, I told her. I'm not looking for a picture. I'm looking for the moment when the light decides to switch sides. Apparently, that was the moment she switched sides too. And so did I. because between all the buttons and explanations and lenses, I saw someone with a quietness that had nothing to do with technology. A different kind of beauty. A beauty that wasn't looking to be seen. She truly listened, and that captured me no less than the camera itself. We traveled together for a week. McLeod Ganj, Dharamsala, a little farther south toward Bir Billing. At night, she taught me how to breathe. In the morning, I taught her to play backgammon. We didn't make anything of it. We were just two kids, each with a backpack, each carrying his own weight. When we returned to Israel, it was already clear that we were together. We rented a small flat near Shklovsky and took whatever jobs we could find. She taught meditation. I wrote algorithms into the night. Then came the children, Noah and Itamar. But between us, the Himalayas never really left. They were always there, in the silence, in the way we sat side by side playing backgammon on Saturday afternoons. By the time I arrived at the Mossad, I had already completed a small exit. I had developed a communication system between a satellite and a drone, and sold it to a defense company for a considerable sum. I thought I understood technology. In the military, technology is a weapon. In the Mossad, technology is a disguise. In the military, you build something to attack or defend. A drone, a missile, a laser system, satellite communications. Tools for winning on the battlefield. In the Mossad, you build something to disappear. This isn't the technology of explosion. It's the technology of camouflage, of engineered perception, of reality being fabricated and injected. They taught me to vanish from detection systems, to plant a GPS tracker inside an object they didn't design, to manipulate memory in real time. They didn't ask me to be an engineer. They asked me to become a flawless technological ghost. Sometimes, my technology didn't only disrupt consciousness, it disrupted a heartbeat. One day, the head of the Mossad called me up to his office. I walked in. He was sitting alone, no assistants. He looked me in the eye and said, "Hi, you're going to manage technology." I tried to argue. I told him there were others with more experience, people who had waited years for the position. He didn't blink. "They know technology," he said. "But we need someone who knows where technology ends and the operation begins." He didn't wait for an answer. He handed me the keys. That was the day I stopped being an engineer and became a man who writes code into people's reality. But there is one night each year when I stop everything. A night when I don't write code. Don't alter reality. Don't interfere with consciousness. A night when I simply remember. We're sitting on the floor, Nurit and I, at a low table with a plain wooden surface, eating slowly, with a small spoon, and she smiles. I said to her, "Let's see if the needle still moves." Haggai's house, Sur Moshe. Tuesday, March 8, 2022, 1:32 a.m. Because of the pouring rain, the water welcomed him warmly that night. There was no need for a preparatory shower. The downpour did not deter him from swimming. On the contrary, it invited him in. His only concern was lightning. If a storm broke, he would have to leave the pool. His mind never rested. Two challenges stood before him. Neither had a written solution. The first was to turn the gold Apollo pager, the very model Hezbollah had already begun purchasing for some of its operatives, into a device that would function as a time bomb, activated by a precise signal. The second was to ensure that they purchased this exact model, not a different one, not a local variation. Luckily, that responsibility no longer belonged to his department. Maya would oversee that part, in every detail. The Mossad's penetration into Lebanon was vast, taking full advantage of the country's religious divisions, its many sects, and the tensions between them. But procurement was a different matter. That ring was sealed tight. Nasrallah was surrounded only by his most trusted circle. Changes would be needed. That was unavoidable. Some of them would be external. The design would change. The device would become heavier. But it could be marketed as an upgrade. Drop-resistant. Impact-resistant. Fully waterproof. Impervious to dust. A battery that could last for weeks without needing a charge. But where would the explosives be placed? In the speaker? No. That would be discovered too easily. Where then? There was no reason to modify the walkie-talkie's brightness settings. The battery was the key. It just had to be the right size. A guy turned onto his back and let the water carry him. He closed his eyes. The rain fell over his face. It felt good. Why did the rainwater feel warmer than the pool water? Strange. He made a mental note to look into it. His thoughts returned to the challenge. There were so many hidden mines along the path. An accidental trigger. A routine inspection that would uncover the mechanism. Too many people who knew. Maybe not the whole story, but enough to reveal something. He had long ago learned that even the best-kept secret could escape through the smallest crack. The bird of the sky shall carry the voice. You keep the secret locked in your heart. Only the walls of the room know. And then one morning it appears in the headlines. How? There is no way to know. The moment you allow yourself to think it, you have opened the pipe. And the water flows. Only the rustle of his hands cutting through the water and the tapping of rain on the surface could be heard in the silence. Chapter 6. A Great Way to Join the Party. Israel, Ream Junction, Nova Music Festival. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 6:21 a.m. But the night was over for us. The first rays of dawn, which that morning seemed cruel and merciless to me, painted the sky in delicate shades of pink and orange. The dance floor, once cloaked in darkness and lit only by spotlights, was now revealed in the soft morning light. To my relief, the trance party continued in full force. The dancers welcomed the sunrise as a symbol of renewal and new beginnings, and instead of letting the rising light suppress their energy, they used it to revive themselves. I wanted to shout something, but speech was forbidden. Unwelcome. Out of place. The rhythmic, fast bass was the only sound allowed in the air. What's your name? You dance beautifully. I'm Tomer. A jumble of words that could not cross the threshold of that moment, foreign and strange in the bewitching air and her intoxicating presence. Sometimes I carefully closed the distance and moved closer, and her hair softly brushed across my face. As part of that magical and unreal experience, I saw small dots moving and approaching above her head. The light had brought a blessing. Celestial beings were coming to us. They moved closer and closer. No, they were not angels. They were paragliders. Still, a great way to join the party. Behind them, I noticed fireworks bursting in the sky. I did not know if I was hallucinating. This was no ordinary party. This was a happening of life itself. Then the music was turned down. I could not understand why, and why I should speak. Whose business was it? The DJ said something I did not comprehend. The contrast was beyond my understanding, like the natives who could not grasp Columbus's ships. Israel, Mossad buildings, Ramat Hasharon. Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, 10:04 a.m. We will have to set up another company, said Avishar, head of the Mossad's European Shell Companies division. His voice calm and steady, eyes fixed on the screen behind him. Dedi sat to the side, as usual, like a guest. Beside him was Haggai. One more, said Maya. Yes, he replied. European coverage, neutral ground. Not a hostile country, nor the overly formal Union. Hungary is suitable. It is also a silent partner in 2 of our programs. What is the name? BAC? An acronym. For now we will call it Business Analytics and Consulting, but we will change the meaning as needed. We operated a similar company 10 years ago and closed it when it was no longer necessary. Maya looked up. And a contact person? He turned to the screen. A photo of a woman in her 40s appeared. This is her. Born in Sicily. Holds dual passports. Doctor of Physics. Speaks 7 languages. A little eccentric. Believes she is an artist. She maintains an official company website, with a registered office in Budapest. No real activity. She will build what we need. He read from the homepage. Cristina Archidiacono Barsoni, Ph.D., CEO and founder. Strategic consultant for innovation and internal affairs. According to my philosophy, well summarized in a quote from Leonardo da Vinci, the most pleasant and noble thing is nature itself. I have devoted most of my life with love to science and development. My Italian and Hungarian roots, my inner need for freedom, and my search for meaning have allowed me to discover different countries, people, and realities. In this framework, I have gained international experience in the European Union, Africa, and the Middle East over several years, fulfilling various roles. Main achievements include work on climate, water, and conflict issues. For example, UNESCO's Global Environment Facility. Publishing articles in scientific journals and for the Atomic Energy Agency. Yehuda looked up from the papers and said to Maya, "We are about to sacrifice a dear person. She appears in this picture, in her profile. After the explosion, the whole world will know her. And she will immediately have to leave the continent she loves and move to an office job 15 minutes from Tel Aviv. Is she Jewish? No. When was she recruited? 2019. Who recruited her? Ilya from the intersection department. What motivates her? Something metaphysical happened to her, Avishar replied. I have no explanation. We checked. We were suspicious. It didn't make sense. What happened to her? Haggai asked. She fell in love with the Jewish people. A silence followed. Is she mentally stable? Maya asked. Let's put it this way. Even Freud would raise an eyebrow. But his clinic was in Vienna, Daddy said. He would have made the trip to Budapest for her, Maya replied, immediately slipping into her signature tone. A second of humor, and then right back to reality. What are the company's areas of activity? All 117. What is 117? Those present looked at her knowingly. I was sick that day, Maya smiled and added, I brought a doctor's note. Yehuda recited from memory. Engineering consulting, collaborations in Africa, contracts with UNESCO, export of counterfeit jewelry, logistics services, marketing in Russian, e-waste monitoring, irrigation system management, hydroponic farming, medical equipment supply, film distribution, refugee tracking, data trading, high-tech talent recruitment, climate impact, Nile trading, urban project brokerage, virtual reality environment design, encryption systems, simultaneous translation for conferences, blended learning systems. These are the 17. There are 100 more. So let's go over the route again, Maya said. Avishar continued. We know that Gold Apollo markets their pagers to Hezbollah. Obviously not directly, but through a complicated system. Ultimately, their devices are there. Our goal is to leverage this relationship of trust and attempt the impossible, to offer Apollo cooperation in upgrading the pager. They will keep the brand name, thus allowing members of Hezbollah to enjoy an upgraded device that contains all the knowledge we have accumulated over the past 100 years. It will go like this. BAC contacts Apollo and offers cooperation. It is a difficult, delicate link, bordering on impossible. Katrina is an amazing woman. She will do the work. Of course, she will not offer pagers at first. We start with an offer to market all Apollo products, and only at a certain point will the offer to upgrade the pager come. Then the moment of truth will come. There was a long pause. Place the bell on the cat's neck. Hagai and Maya exchanged an almost invisible smile. How? Avishar glanced at Dedi, who considered whether to answer. Finally, he stood and said, "It is a family company, run by a father and daughter, but they have a saleswoman. She is basically the one we have chosen. With your permission, I won't go into details. I'm just saying that we will make her an offer she can't refuse. But it is no longer at Christina's level. With all my love and respect for her, that's something the doctor will have to handle." A rustle passed through the room. Chapter 7. The Taiwanese Deal. Taiwan, Tainan, Lotus Garden, Tea House, Wednesday, January 25, 2023, 10:29 a.m. The tea house was nestled in the heart of the Tainan Botanical Garden, surrounded by still lotus ponds and bamboo trees that cast delicate shadows over the water. Wooden bridges creaked softly beneath footsteps, and the scent of jasmine filled the air. Small fish glided slowly between the lotus leaves like unspoken thoughts. Christina arrived first. She chose a side table, not hidden, but not one that caught the eye immediately. Her golden brown hair fell over her shoulder naturally yet precisely, as if she knew exactly how she looked without needing a mirror. Her eyes were a light gray-green, sharp and intelligent. She made no effort to impress. That was simply who she was. Not a beauty demanding attention, but one whose presence made people listen before she spoke a word. Xu Jingli entered quietly, wearing a light gray dress, her black hair pulled back. She was younger than Christina had expected, but carried an air of experience. Her gaze was calm and focused, not that of a novice, but of someone familiar with contracts and negotiations. "Thank you for coming," Christina said as she stood to greet her. "You chose a wonderful place. I didn't know it. Sometimes you need silence to hear what really matters." The waiter appeared, and Christina ordered jasmine tea for herself and smoked camellia tea for her guest. Steam rose slowly from their cups. Xu Jingxi sat opposite her for a long moment before speaking steadily. "Tell me about your company." Christina placed her palms together calmly. "I am the owner and founder of BACKFT, a small company registered in Hungary." "Small but dangerous," she smiled. "Dangerous because sometimes rivals don't take us seriously, which allows us to surprise them. We specialize in business development, technology licensing, and creative marketing of unconventional communication solutions. Not a startup, not a giant. Something in between." "How long have you been operating?" "Since June 2022. "That's not long. We started operating informally well before formal registration, and in 8 months accomplished what would usually take 5 years. Xu Jingyi nodded. "How can I help you?" Christina smiled again. "We don't believe in help. We believe in partnership. We want to represent you not only in Europe, but also in North and South America, maybe even Africa. We tested your products. We saw the quality of production, attention to durability, coordination between hardware and software." "Are you asking for exclusivity?" "No. We believe in free competition. Let the best win." Christina added casually, In recent months, we faced a problem. Xu Jingyi studied her silently. We discovered that we have excess cash in the bank. We believe in putting resources where they can create value, and because this project excites us and we are passionate, we'd like to offer an advance of $150,000 against future royalties as proof of our seriousness. No preconditions. Xu Jingyi sipped her tea and glanced down at a nearby pond. A gray-blue fish circled slowly among 3 lotus leaves, pausing briefly as if looking directly at Xu's eyes. Was it listening to their conversation? Christina seized the moment and added without drama, "I'm not just talking about money. I love what you have that almost no one else has." For example, the ability to combine tough hardware with design has almost disappeared. Take the Your AL924. It's not just the IP67 rating. The curved glass is easy to clean. The greenish screen reduces glare under fluorescent lighting. The central button is positioned slightly to the left, so users with short fingers can reach it even when holding something in their other hand. Xiaojinga remained silent as Christina continued. Or the A07. It's true it's relatively old, but it doesn't freeze while charging like the equivalent Chinese model. Your battery might be smaller, but it lasts twice as long when the pager is active. That's not a trivial matter. It means less anxiety for doctors and fewer malfunctions in restaurants. And this is all based on field tests, not gimmicks. Did you perform laboratory comparisons? 3. In Paris, Andalusia, and Western Ukraine. 3 different environments. Same result. Gold Apollo won every time. You're not just a marketing woman. I entered this business because I'm tired of seeing good companies disappear, swallowed by emotionless giants. I'm here because you deserve to be sold worldwide, not just through distributors in Asia. But beyond impressive slogans, I want my bank manager to be satisfied first. Take your display board, the Lednev, smart and precise. Red letters on black, fast refresh rate, internal antenna. It sits at the entrance of clinics and just works without maintenance or rebooting for years. Xu Jingyi nodded slowly. And your new button, JD170T, with its round design, semi-transparent body, slight contrast on the back, and subtle but noticeable click. Perfect for restaurant tables. I was at a restaurant in Kyoto that uses it. A waiter arrives within 4 seconds. 4. A faint smile flickered on Xu's face, but she remained silent. At the same time, we also have impressive production capabilities. We own a factory in Bulgaria. They are no less cheap, efficient, and modest than you are. In some cases, we will want to upgrade products to adapt to customer requirements. We will handle this ourselves, naturally subject to your final approval. We fully understand you wouldn't want your logo on devices that don't meet your standards. Xu Jingyi was silent for a moment, then said, "This sounds like an excellent basis for cooperation. How long will you be here? I need to arrange a meeting with Dad. He's the founder and driving force. I'm just the senior assistant. He's the one who needs to meet you face to face." Christina raised her teacup. Happily. Xu Jingyi lifted her glass. Successfully. At that moment, a small blue-gray fish leapt sharply above the water's surface. Xu Jingyi noticed. There was no danger in it. But if fish could talk, she would have heard it say, "Be careful." But fish, although they know everything and nothing is hidden from them, are born to be silent. Chapter 8. Code Red. Israel, Reem Junction, Nova Music Festival. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 6:30 a.m. Code Red, Code Red. The words repeated themselves cruelly. I was thrown back to the hard ground of reality. A muffled, foreign, aggressive voice echoed the threatening refrain. Was this really the same DJ who had just lifted us to the highest heights? Code red. Code red. Yes, I heard distant alarms and muffled explosions. The flower girl refused to stop moving. She clung to the dying echoes of the music as if holding on to her life, like a doll whose battery was running low. Even when the sounds had completely faded, she continued moving to a hidden rhythm in her head. I smiled at her. "What's happening?" she asked. It was the first time I heard the news. I tried to focus on her soft, pleasant voice, to hold on to it, to replay it in my mind. But there was no time. Figures ran past us. "There are rockets falling in this area. The area probably needs to be evacuated." "Missiles?" she asked. "Yes," I said. For a moment, we forgot. I did at least, that we were just 2 kilometers from the most violent place in the world. "But I don't even know your name." She turned to answer, but a group of girls running in fear separated us for a moment. People scattered in a hurry, abandoning the dance floor. What had been the stage for my magical fairy tale remained empty forever. The crowds rushed toward the parking lot. "Are you here with a car?" I asked. "No," she said, smiled. "I hitchhiked." "Why not?" "Come on, let's go in mine." Taiwan, Gold Apollo Buildings, New Taipei. Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, 5:42 p.m. The polished wooden lobby welcomed Xu Jinggai with a golden logo embossed on the wall. Gold Apollo Industries, shaped as a relaxed oval. Next to it were Chinese characters in dark letters, rooted like ancient trees in the office wall. She walked down the familiar corridor. A large flower pot stood exactly where it always had, near the entrance, beside the company's nameplate. Xu Qing Kuang sat in the back conference room, facing a wall lined with framed posters of all the pager models, transmitters, receivers, buttons, and screens. Enlarged photos of past devices, AR-116, JD-920, a 06. He wore the same button-down shirt, the same expression of someone who would never said, "I don't know." When he noticed her, he set his cup on the table and motioned for her to sit. "Well," he said without looking away from the screen, "how did the meeting with the European go?" "Unusual," she replied. "Jing Yi, she was ahead of the game. She wore something too simple, but gave the impression of being very smart." He raised his head. "And what does she want?" "To represent us in the market. Not just Europe, but worldwide." She offered a non-exclusive agreement, but with an advance. "An advance?" "Yes. $150,000 immediately against future royalties. No demands at this time." Silence filled the room except for the distant beep of a dying fax machine. "Weren't you talking about a specific device?" he asked. "No, she mentioned several models and understood them in depth. She spoke of the AL924, the A07, the LED-NEV board, and the JD170T button. She cited features and small details. She has a good eye." Her father leaned back. "Too much good can sometimes be too much." Xu Jingyi said nothing, simply lowered her head. "And where is she from?" "Hungary. The company is registered there. BAC. Founded in June." He shook his head slightly. "When is her flight?" "We need to arrange a meeting for tomorrow." "Ask her for 11. Xu Jingyi nodded, but he stopped her with a slight wave of his hand. "One more thing," he said quietly, his eyes still fixed on the old device in his hand. "Agreements are always signed with a pen and a smile. Divorces are sometimes signed with the same pen, but never with the same smile." He stood, walked to the shelf, and picked up an old pager model, the AL-924. He turned it over in his palm, raising it to eye level as if he could see something beyond the plastic. He put the pager back precisely where it was and pressed a button that illuminated a blue light beneath it. Israel, Riem Junction, Nova Party Parking Lot. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 6:30 a.m. We ran through hundreds of people toward the car. I opened the door for her and moved to the driver's seat. I started the engine and began to drive, but stopped after only 2 meters. Hundreds of cars were paralyzed, packed tightly on the narrow road. I heard distant bursts of gunfire, which I assumed came from IDF soldiers. The shots grew louder and closer. Dozens of passengers abandoned their vehicles and fled. "Terrorist infiltration," someone shouted. People scattered into the surrounding fields. The gunfire drew nearer. I assessed the situation. I turned the wheel sharply to the left, leaving the road and entering the field. The Jeep floated easily over the furrows. "What's your name?" I shouted. She did not respond, still struggling to catch her breath. We reached the edge of the field and took a dirt road. I breathed a sigh of relief. At the end of the road, I recognized a few soldiers waving at us. "Finally," I murmured. "Where were they 15 minutes ago? Dozens have been killed." I shot her a sharp glance. She narrowed her eyes in fear. As we drew closer, I understood why. Without haste, the soldiers raised their weapons and began shooting. Only then did I notice their green bandanas. The car window shattered. "Get your head down," I shouted. To my right, I spotted a small grove. I steered the car toward it as bullets whistled overhead. I pressed the accelerator to the floor. The car rocked like a ship on a stormy sea. Dozens of party members were running there as well. In the center of the grove, trees and cars blocked the way. I turned around, but my path was blocked by abandoned vehicles. I shifted into reverse and slammed the gas pedal. I hit the car blocking me hard, clearing a path. We turned around again and continued driving on the ruts. I searched for a dirt path. I recognized it. I was probably the first in history, since the invention of the car, to drive at 120 kilometers per hour through a plowed field, but it did not last long. We entered a recently watered field. We sank deep into the mud. The car stood still like a corpse. The shots grew closer, seeming to come from all directions. There was nowhere to run. Any direction would lead us into a trap of fire. I wondered if I was hallucinating. One moment in paradise, the next engulfed in the fire of hell. The shift was inconceivable. Taiwan, Gold Apollo Headquarters, New Taipei, Thursday, January 26, 2023, 8:42 a.m. Xu Qing Kwang sat upright, hands folded, eyes steady and focused. To his left, Jing Yi was seated, her notebook open on the table. Christina took a seat across from them, her small bag resting quietly at her feet. "Thank you for calling me on such short notice," Christina began. "Of course," the father replied softly. "You made a strong impression yesterday on someone I deeply respect and care for." Christina smiled warmly. "I understand why you hold her in such regard." He shared a knowing smile with his daughter. "I read the draft agreement you sent this morning. An intriguing document, precise, perhaps a little too precise." "Too precise," Christina admitted with a hint of a smile. "I must say you're as original as the products you create. $150,000 up front. Is that a gesture of generosity or urgency?" "Both," she said without hesitation. "Sometimes generosity is just another form of urgency." "Why the urgency?" Christina replied clearly. "Life is short. There's a saying in Hungarian, though I don't think it originated there. If you abandon it for a day, it will abandon you for 2. Delay by a day, and it takes twice the effort to catch up. How does that go in Hungarian? He asked. Ha igi y napra elegis. Ket napra elegitejed. He smiled. I love the music of your language. You'll have to be more precise, she said with a modest smile. I speak 7 languages. He laid the printed page on the table. Let's discuss the upgrades. Section 12, he read. BAC reserves the right to propose changes to products for specific regional needs and implement them independently, subject to Apollo's approval. BAC commits that any modifications will meet Apollo's standards and will always be submitted for approval. Christina remained composed. That's standard legal language. We've had clients request minor adjustments, battery life, water resistance, but never without your final approval. Water resistance? Some clients also ask for resistance to drops, dust, and oil, up to level 6, or weight reduction. Why not send us the changes and let us implement them? It would cost more. Where do you make these changes? At our factory in Bulgaria. We never touch the core of the device. Changes to the shell, interface, or design are always submitted for your approval. You inspect our work, dismantle the device if you wish, and then decide. Shu-Ching Kwong stood and walked to the display shelf. He picked up an older model and turned it slowly in his hand. Do you know how long it took me to understand what happens when a button moves 3 millimeters to the left? I can imagine. That's how we survive. We're a small company, ma'am. He stretched the last word, glancing briefly at the computer screen. Buyer Sony. Christina is fine. Christina, we don't like surprises. Mr. Ching Kwong, I feel that you and I have turned a possibility I'm not sure will happen into the core of our discussion. The heart of this agreement, the reason I flew 10 hours to be here, is not to request changes, but to distribute your devices worldwide as they are. We really love them. If you want to freeze this clause for now, I can go with that. She added lightly. In that case, I'd only ask to reduce the advance to a third, $50,000, because for us that represents a significant change. He studied her carefully. His tone softened. You even pronounce my name perfectly. Most Europeans can't. I don't like things I don't understand, and there are 3 things here. 3? The money, Section 12, and you. Let's start with the third. Who are you, Christina? He glanced again at the screen. Archidiakono Buyer Sony? I'm originally from Vienna. Now I live in Hungary. My mother was a fitness instructor. My father was a musician who never finished high school. I studied economics and international relations. But my real path began when I left a government job I didn't want, working with numbers, not people. I quit and co-founded a small company. The partner left. The company stayed. Within 6 months, it became a leader in the field. Have you checked our website? Of course. You saw who our clients are. I did. It's definitely impressive. He nodded slowly and repeated the phrase. Definitely impressive. Why don't you mention your background in physics? Are you ashamed of it? She met his gaze calmly. No, but I learned something important. Not everything I know needs to be on my resume. Physics gave me discipline and precision, but the world I've chosen doesn't need to know all that. It needs to know that I understand people. For full disclosure, there are a few other things I didn't include. Such as? I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. And I'm not interested in that. You seem like a nice man. They all laughed freely, a release of tension. May I also hear a little about my future husband? Christina asked. He barely had time to recover before another joke came. He smiled broadly. "We're still just dating, not married yet," he said, and the laughter. Then he grew a bit more serious and began to share his story. "I studied engineering at Taipei Tech and returned to Tainan to be near my parents. I started alone, with a few business failures essential for taking off. This company wasn't born from brilliance. It grew slowly, like a tree. Year by year, a little more. Always trying to understand what really matters. Who our partners are. That's why it's so important for me to get to know you." He turned toward Xu Jingyi. "My beloved and only daughter joined the company when she was 22. I didn't ask her. She chose to. She changed this place, brought structure, not just technology, but understanding. In that, she surpasses me." "Is your wife also involved?" A shadow passed through the room. "My wife was killed in an accident 3 years ago. Yes, she was my driving force. I might accept your offer to reduce the advance to a third." Jingyi spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "Dad, if I may suggest something." He raised a small, gentle hand. "Not yet, Jingyi. Right now, I want to hear only your heart." Xu Jingyi lowered her eyes. "I understand what you mean, my dear daughter. Without approval, there's no marketing anyway. So why remove the clause? And another $100,000 would make Mr. Quito at the bank smile." "That's right, Dad." Christina looked at them. "Mr. Xu Qing Kuang. Please call me Qing Kuang." She smiled. "Thank you. Qing Kuang, I'm not here just to sell. I'm willing to remove some clauses, add others. But there's one thing I cannot change." "What is that?" "Who I am." He looked at her for a long moment. "I'm beginning to like you." She smiled politely. "I can't believe I'm saying this. But if you're free tonight, I'd love it if you showed me around the city. I'm flying out tomorrow." She added almost in a whisper. "Oh, maybe one glass of Cao Liang or two will help me convince you to take another 100,000 from me." He didn't answer immediately. He smiled faintly, not at her, but at a distant memory. Xu Jingyi watched him and quietly closed her notebook, which lay untouched, its pages still blank since the conversation began. Christina stayed seated, crossing her legs calmly as if in no rush. He stared at her intently. "After all, you did say we're still just dating," she added. "On one condition. You tell me about the hidden parts of your resume without killing me." BAC Offices, Budapest. Friday, January 27th, 2023. An email from Gold Apollo arrived at the BAC offices in Budapest, titled, "Agreement Gold Apollo, signed copy." The content of the email read, "Madam, Sir, following the meetings held this week, I am pleased to attach the signed agreement between our company and BAC. As requested, a final copy signed by us is enclosed. 2 original copies were delivered to Miss Christina Bayer-Sony. Additionally, an invoice for payment of $150,000 is attached, including full bank details for the transfer. We would be grateful if the amount could be transferred within 3 business days as specified in the agreement. We wish all of us a fruitful and constructive cooperation. Best regards, Xu Jingyi, Vice President, Gold Apollo Industries." Chapter 9. Our party ended. Theirs just started. Israel, Ream Junction. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 7:32 a.m. "Let's continue on foot." I reached out and helped her from the car. Her touch was cold. We ran and hid in the bushes. About 100 meters away, I saw a group of armed men. They turned toward the bushes growing on a nearby hill. Desperate screams of a young woman echoed, sounds of a struggle, guttural cries of encouragement from men. The girl's voice again, like a wounded animal fighting for its life, against wild laughter. Evil, monstrous, a blood-curdling scream from a man. Then a quieter cry, a sob. And after that, the sound of bursts of bullets, then silence. Then the report of a single bullet. Crying and screaming surrounded us from all sides. The flower girl trembled beside me. Behind her, about 300 meters away, was a line of stalled cars. Gunmen moved from car to car, spraying gunfire. Sometimes young people tried to escape but only made it a few dozen meters before falling. Some cars were set ablaze. Wild screams from the rioters echoed in the air. "It's not safe here," I whispered. "We need to get away." We stood up, crouching. "We have to run east." I was surprised to hear a hoarseness in my voice that sounded like a bark. The opposite direction from the strip, towards the sunrise. The group of gunmen headed toward us. The shots drew closer, accompanied by screams of ecstasy. Our party ended. Theirs just started. She ran alongside me at my pace without difficulty. Bullets whistled overhead. At that moment, a silly thought crossed my mind. Just like on the dance floor minutes ago, our hand movements were perfectly coordinated. Now and then, I glanced behind. Young people were running after us. We reached a 2-lane asphalt road. I recognized Highway 232, the same road I had taken to the party years ago. "After the intersection, there's a shelter," she said, panting. How did she know? There was no time to ask. After a short run, we spotted the shelter, a concrete structure designed to provide immediate protection from rocket attacks. A large bird of prey was painted on the wall, wings blue, body light brown. Explosions echoed from every direction. Lebanon, Beirut, Rafik Hariri Hospital. Wednesday, July 9th, 2025, 11:20 p.m. Today I remembered grandmother. I would give my eyes to have her here now and to drown in that soft, tender voice. But my eyes were taken from me long ago. I was born in the village of Saporia, near Nazareth, Sarah would say, sometimes speaking, sometimes silent. Our house was made of light stone, with a small wooden window facing a pomegranate tree. My mother Miriam wove rugs by hand. Father Ali grew olives and grapes. We were 5 children. I was the eldest. She closed her eyes, as if transported back. On the night of July 15, 1948, we heard noises. Not from a wedding. It was shooting. Screaming. Mother hugged me and told me not to cry. "Be like a cat," she said. "Quiet." Father packed dry bread and 2 dates into a sack for us. We ran. We didn't know where. "What did you take with you?" I asked. "Nothing. I was barefoot the whole way." My little sister Sarah asked, "When will we be back?" And everyone was silent. Grandma swallowed and continued. "On the way, someone said they burned the houses. Someone else said they shot the brothers of the Abu Amr family. When we wanted to return, it was already too late. Those who returned either disappeared or their house was gone. Others were already living there, under a different flag, speaking a different language. We became lepers. Some managed to return but were turned into slaves. From morning until night, they worked for a loaf of bread and water." Slowly, she pulled an old key from beneath the pillow. Rust had eaten its teeth, but to her it was a hidden treasure. "The house is gone," she said softly. "The front door was probably burned for firewood long ago. This key no longer opens anything, but I can't bring myself to throw it away. It is the last piece of that life." She would squeeze my hand. "Do you understand? I didn't just lose a house. I lost a language that was mine. The smell of the bread my mother baked. My name on the door. I became a shadow. At night, she would stroke my head and whisper, "The Jews are the devil, my grandson. Remember that. They will smile, but if you come near them, you will burn." Operational Report. Lebanon 783 pager explosion tests. Israel, Mossad explosives. Testing basement, Ramat Hasharon, Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, 6:38 a.m. A background. The experiment was conducted under the requirements of the Technology Department and in coordination with the Operations Department. Purpose: to examine the effectiveness of the explosion mechanism embedded in the Lebanon 783 beeper under two main operational scenarios involving Hezbollah operatives. Two advanced biological simulators, BioSim AV4, were used, identical in structure, weight, and physiological response. The dummies had dark synthetic skin, sweaty cheeks, internal warm blood flow, vibration sensors, temperature receptors, and neural response systems designed specifically for this test. They wore worn field uniforms with authentic badges and leather belts housing the trapped Lebanon 783 pager. The code names were Munir and Ali. Near each dummy, two static dummies without simulation features were placed at 1 and 2 meters, at 10 and 3 degrees angles, to assess spray range and environmental damage. B. First experiment: Munir, non-responsive fighter. Time: 6:41. A command message was sent to the device. The pager beeped and vibrated. Munir did not react. No button press. The explosion triggered after 8 seconds, as designed. Result: complete rupture of the abdominal area. Damage to major internal organs, liver, spleen, intestines. No injuries to head, eyes, or upper limbs. Immediate fall and severe bleeding. Biological evaluation. Death within 1 hour without emergency treatment. Second experiment. Ali, responsive fighter. Time: 7:14. A command message was sent. Ali pulled out the pager, read the message, and double-clicked as instructed. The explosion occurred about 25 centimeters from his face. Result: direct severe head injury. Partial blindness in both eyes. Crushing of nose bones, eye sockets, and upper jaw. Partial tearing of the palm holding the device. Massive facial bleeding. Biological evaluation. Death within 1 hour without emergency treatment. D. Systemic conclusions. The explosion mechanism functions exactly as designed. Clear distinction between two scenarios. No response. Severe abdominal injury and functional shock. Response: click. Severe head injury causing immediate, irreversible disability. Limited effective spray range, up to 1.5 meters. No injuries detected in surrounding dummies at 1 and 2 meters. The pager causes complete operational shutdown of the target rapidly, without a direct lethal blow. E. Operational recommendations. Authorize controlled distribution of pagers to primary targets. Message wording will sufficiently entice activation. A warrior who ignores the device will collapse. A warrior who responds will be blinded. Both outcomes achieve the operation's goal: neutralizing immediate operational capability, creating panic, and shattering morale. Signed, on behalf of the Technology Division, Head of the Experiments and Operations Section. Israel, Ream Junction, Meganet Shelter. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 8:23 a.m. We entered the shelter and pressed ourselves against the back wall, panting. I whispered soothing words. My face touched hers. Her cheeks were cold. She closed her eyes. Gradually, more and more young people joined us. For reasons I cannot explain, my great-grandmother's stories about those death trains flooded my mind. Jews packed tightly like a narrow bundle into a carriage leading them to their deaths. The memory of the tale came to me like a sharp, piercing, and unavoidable breath of death. Was it the very presence of death itself that made her voice echo within me at that moment? The shots drew closer. Some begged on the phone for help from Dad, from Mom. Some sent texts. Some said their goodbyes. Someone whispered, "I don't want to die." Someone even took a picture. A silly thought crossed my mind. If the people in my great-grandmother's story had cell phones, what messages would they have sent? What videos? How did you know there was a shelter here? I travel here a lot. Then she added, I am from Kibbutz Yad Mordecai. But the announcement of rescue was premature. The rumble of oncoming vehicles grew louder. I strained to listen. I never imagined an engine could sound so cruel. Hearing the roars and screams, I pulled her close. Her heart pounded fast and hard. "Lie under me," I said. "I will protect you." Her face was pale. I helped her down to the floor. "What's your name?" I whispered. She answered, but before I could hear her, a huge explosion shook the shelter. Then silence. 2 grenades were thrown inside, exploding with terrifying noise. Thick smoke made it impossible to see. I felt her beneath me. I could not breathe. My ears went deaf, but I heard muffled cries of the wounded. The acrid smell of explosives, blood, and smoke filled the air. Through the smoke, I saw the silhouettes of 2 gunmen standing in the doorway. I held her tight beneath me. They sprayed the shelter with bullets. Those who still had any strength left screamed in terror. I pulled her closer, desperate to find cover behind others' bodies. Another grenade landed straight at us. Everything faded to black. Chapter 10. The Doctor. On board flight QR 970, approaching Hue, Vietnam. Monday, February 12, 2024, 8:45 a.m. The plane began a gradual descent. The windows were steamed up, and the pale morning light filtered through like milky gray. Dr. Rakuti sat up in his seat, pulled a small fountain pen from a black handbag, and wrote a short line on a folded piece of paper. His handwriting was angular, almost calligraphic. He finished, closed the pen, folded the note into 4, and put it in the inside pocket of his jacket. Below him lay the city of hue stripes of red-tiled roofs amid thick tropical greenery, and the perfume river wound slowly, like a trail of frosted glass at the heart of the light. In the distance, the hills of Tuathian province wore a misty veil like lace floating over the contours of the land. Medical report Sheba, Medical Center, Tel Hashemer. Patient name, Tomer Cave. Time of event, 8:40, October 7th, 2023. Arrival at hospital, 1610, October 7th, 2023. Initial diagnosis, 23:45, October 7th, 2023. The patient was injured in the morning at Meganet in the south of the country during the attack. The injury was caused by a multifocal explosion at Meganet. After initial treatment at several evacuation points in the area, the patient was transferred to Sheba Hospital Tel Hashemer and admitted in the afternoon. Due to an unusually high load in the emergency room, which included more than 2,000 wounded, the initial diagnosis was only completed at night. Upon admission, the patient was found unconscious, likely due to the combined effects of direct trauma, closed head injury, and general shock. Additionally, a ruptured right eardrum was diagnosed. The diagnosis at this stage includes blast injury with shrapnel and acoustic impact. A fracture of the right clavicle was detected, probably caused by a partial collapse in the shelter or a direct blast. A small internal hemorrhage was identified in the right lung. A cut wound behind the right ear was found, from which shrapnel was removed during immediate minor surgery. Local trauma signs remained. A longitudinal scar was also observed on the left side of the face, extending from the sacral area to the corner of the mouth, likely caused by penetrating shrapnel or contact with concrete. Additionally, a partial amputation of the second finger, the index of left hand, was documented, consistent with a penetrating fracture or sharp trauma. Initial treatment included respiratory stabilization, immobilization of the injured chest and shoulder area, and care in a shock room for continuous observation. The patient was then transferred to close observation in the intensive care unit. Note: different types of blood were found on the patient's clothes. The assumption is direct contact with another person's body at the scene of the incident. Vietnam, Covered Marble Terrace, Indochina Hotel. Monday, February 12, 2024, 4:20 p.m. The rain had stopped only minutes earlier. Water still dripped from the gutters, and the cypress trees trembled slightly. The Perfume River flowed quietly in the distance, caressing the last vapors of moisture and carrying a faint scent of cinnamon flowers. Teresa arrived 5 minutes early, but Dr. Rakudi was already there, sitting at a distant table facing the river. When he saw her, he stood to meet her. He was short, in his 60s, wearing a black suit. His thinning hair was slicked back, with no sign of fatigue from the long flight. Max Rakudi. Teresa Woe. Thank you for coming. Welcome to Vietnam. Thank you, I'm delighted to be here. There was a Hungarian accent in his English. As the former chief saleswoman at Gold Apollo, Teresa told herself that he did not belong to the gallery of types she had encountered in her work, the salespeople and the high-tech professionals. I was glad to hear that a BAC representative was coming to Vietnam, Teresa said. That's a nice way to put it, but the truth is, I came specifically to meet you. A young waitress approached with a menu bound in wooden covers. Something warm? Teresa asked, scanning his face. You order first. A glass of Ruokan, please. What is that? The doctor asked. Local fermented rice wine. Drink it with a straw. Traditional. Strong but comforting. He nodded slowly. And you really drink this? What do you need comfort for? He smiled, clearly not expecting an answer, and closed the menu. Then bring me something that will take me back to Europe. Mr. Rakudi, you came all this way just to miss Europe? Let me choose for you. I promise it will not involve a plane ticket. She smiled at the waitress. And for our guest, a cup of Ruo Nep Kai Hoa Wang. That's also rice wine, Teresa explained, but a different, more delicate variety. More popular with tourists. Less traditional, but still local. The waitress turned away. Please call me Max. This place makes me believe in reincarnation. You feel like you were born here. I'm not sure I was born here, he said gently. But every corner I've seen so far makes me feel as if I've lived here before. I'm happy to hear your collaboration with Gold Apollo is going well, she said. Very well. They are masters in their field. They? You? I don't know if you are part of them or... I know you've become independent. We remain on very good terms, Teresa said. I still visit their headquarters when I'm in Taiwan, and we stay in touch. But you're independent now. How do you see this new era for yourself? Does it open doors or close them? Sorry to be so blunt, he asked. They open slowly, and sometimes there's nothing behind them. I'm here to show you that behind our door there is someone smiling. Why Vietnam? He asked. The waitress arrived with their drinks and left them alone. "Personal reasons," Teresa replied. He nodded, as if she had said something very familiar to him, and smiled. Teresa Wu was in her early 40s, tall and slender, with sharp features that reflected a past marked by discipline and precision. Her eyes had an elegant almond shape, typical of the region where she was born, and they conveyed a quiet inner calm and strength alongside a subtle, mysterious quality that was hard to decipher. Her years in the business world were evident in her restrained body language, and the cadence of her English carried faint traces of Mandarin spoken in Taiwan. She took a long sip through the straw. He drank slowly. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. "To what or to whom do I owe the pleasure of you coming all this way to see me?" "I'm happy to tell you." He drank. "This is good," he said. "There's one market becoming significant. Not easy. Not open, but essential. Some are trying to reach it, not necessarily through the front door. Maybe you know the players." "I'm listening." "What market?" "Pagers." Her face remained frozen. "This industry is starting to flourish again," he continued. "People are losing trust in overly advanced technology. They want something simple, reliable, unhackable. It began with hospitals, who first understood that when networks or servers fail, a simple pager is the only device that still works. No apps, no internet, no passwords. After that came emergency services, fire, rescue, ambulance. There too, reliability is essential, not flashy features. Even airports have returned to integrating pagers, especially for ground teams. How exactly can I help? We never talk about help. Always cooperation. I do not believe in a deal where only one side goes home happy. She was silent, waiting. Are you up to date on our new upgrade? The AR 924? Yes, Golden Apollo updated me, and of course the entire network is full of the new pager. You are getting wonderful feedback on it. We are. The response has exceeded our expectations, especially in key markets. But what matters more is that it meets the exact needs we defined from the start. He placed 3 identical devices on the table. 3-month battery life. Full resistance to water, oil, and dust. Complete resistance to shocks and drops. Encrypted messages as needed. Charging via standard USB cable. She picked up a pager and examined it while he continued speaking. We recently closed a deal with the government of Bulgaria, 750 units. We are in advanced talks with the Israeli army, 400 units. I can provide documents upon request. Tirsa nodded appreciatively. You've done impressive work here. What kind of cooperation are you talking about? You've done business with them before. You have a contact who interests us greatly. Who? Athens handles logistics. They have recently become leaders in the field. Not a muscle moved in her face. Our new device fits them perfectly. Approach them directly. You don't need me. They're impenetrable. No idea why. They're just impossible to reach. Silence. She checked the pager again and looked up at him. He said, Our offer. You close a deal with them for 5,000 units of the upgraded model at the old price. New model at the old price. $140. Aren't you raising the price? No. How do I come home happy? 10% of the gross. It's happiness mixed with sadness. He paused and added, and a special bonus of $100,000 upon completion. She tilted her head slightly, a faint smile appearing for just a moment. You really want to sell him your pagers. They're not ours, they're yours. You're their father and mother. Gold Apollo. What we've done is a modest but meaningful contribution. She hesitated. I'm here until Sunday. If you can give me an answer tomorrow, we can move forward. I can't close with him a deal before he sees the new model. I can arrange 5 units to reach him in Athens within 12 hours. Our factory is in Bulgaria. Meanwhile, you can test them. I've heard much about your technical mastery. You'll find them amazing, simple, strong, waterproof. Is gold involved? Of course. They approve the changes. We must report every transaction and transfer their share. How much? $25 per device. That doesn't leave you much. We believe the investment will pay off. Teresa hesitated. I'm missing a piece of information. I'll be happy to provide it. A device developed in the 1960s. A bit earlier, he corrected. The patent was registered in 1949 by Alfred J. Gross. She continued. And you're betting everything on it. Many new devices are about to revolutionize the market. Artificial intelligence is waiting at the door to enter every home, and you? That's exactly the point. The world races ahead looking for smart devices. Screens, networks, cameras, microphones, intelligence. We chose to bet on elegant simplicity. He took a deep breath. Even if woken in the middle of the night, he would recite this passage he spent the entire flight from Zurich contemplating. A device that offers nothing but obedience. It never hesitates, it delivers a message, and you simply receive it. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. In a world flooded with channels, opinions, interruptions, the pager returns us to ingenious simplicity in the style of the Beatles. No arguments, no interruptions, no self-control, no tracking ability. We took this idea to its peak. The greatest simplicity meets the edge of technology. A battery that lasts 3 months and durability in any condition. Simplicity meets genius. Her gaze lifted from the pager to his face. He handed her a card. I'm at the Melia Winfurl Hua, room 3011. Do you think you'll have an answer today? It's noon there now. If it's a no, you'll hear from me quickly. Sheba Medical Center, Tel Hashimer, Recovery Room. October 11th, 2023, late night. What are these words? Not yet. Fade in. Right side. Code. You are code. Open. Not yet. You're stuck. Can't move. A word? Here she comes. No face. No nothing. He hugs me again. I will let the darkness win. Vietnam, Hotel Melia Winfurl Hua. Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, 8:12 a.m. From the 30th floor of the city's tallest hotel, Hua lay stretched at the foot of the window like a meticulous model of a distant reality. The sun rose behind the mountains to the east, casting pale golden light on the reddish rooftops, on the perfume river winding slowly south, and on narrow alleys between residential buildings, markets, and motorcycle stations. The clouds still hovered low, as if touching the tops of palm trees, adding a dreamlike dimension to the scene. The phone rang twice. Dr. Rakudi answered without hesitation. Teresa's voice was dry, almost quiet. I haven't lost $100,000 in one night in a long time, she said. He said nothing and sat down. I'm sorry to hear that. I'll send the devices to your hotel this morning. No, we have to meet. I promised to complete the picture for you. It's important you know everything. I'm not sure I want to know, she said. Teresa W. You have no idea how much you want to know. Sheba Medical Center, Tel Hashimer, Recovery Room. Recording on October 21st, 2023, 8:52 a.m. Sound of heavy breathing. Silence. I'm Tomer. I'm thinking. This says, they told me. I have a scar on my side. And the shoulder, it doesn't. It makes noises. like a kind of crackling, and my left hand, the index finger, half of it's gone. I still try to point at things with it. Feels stupid. We hear a light cough on the recording. The nurse said I was stable. That sounds like a word for documents, not a word for a body. I don't feel stable. I feel like I'm hanging. A very long pause. They say I was in a place that wasn't good. I don't remember anything. Nothing. There's no picture. But something in my heart says, you were. Israel, Mossad headquarters, Ramat Hasharon. From the Journal of Haggai, head of the Technology Division. Thursday, January 4th, 2024. Today, Maya told me she owed me a small confession. It was the end of the workday. Everyone else had left. She stood in the doorway with her gray sweater, the one she wears when she's cold but won't admit it. She said that back when she worked with us as an intelligence officer 5 years ago, she fell in love with me. She said it without drama, as if telling me what she bought at the corner store today. She added that she's over it, that she's in a different place now. But back then, it was hard. When she realized that all the signals she had sent just flew over my head, I had no desire to open that door, especially since she was already past it. So I asked, "What do you mean, a different place?" She hesitated for a moment. "I met someone," she said. "Feel like telling me about him?" I asked, with a half smile. "Not him. Her," she said. "Then tell me about her." Maya sat on the edge of my desk, like she used to. She's the designer who created the logo for our company. That's how we met. We went out for a drink, and it just happened. I asked what her name was, and she said Corinne, that she's a new immigrant from France, just 3 years in Israel. I asked if Corinne loves her. Maya said, yes, too much. Obsessive? I asked. Sometimes I just need some air. I stayed silent. She smiled at me. You know why I fell in love with you back then, according to my psychologist? Because I knew it wouldn't go anywhere. And I was afraid that if it did go somewhere, I wouldn't want to be there. Give me his number. I like the way he thinks. She told me that Dror, the guy she was supposed to marry, once said during a fight that he had a feeling she liked women. What do you love about her? I asked. Maya paused. She got up from the edge of the desk, walked over to the window, looked at the drops of rain, and said, she never rushes, and she always waits for me, like a melody that doesn't insist on being heard. She loves it when I talk in my sleep. She quotes it to me in the morning, like it's a song. She has small eyes, not beautiful at all, but they're always moving, like a skylark searching for the sky. When she teaches me French, she can't stop laughing at my accent. And she has the cutest laugh in the world. She dances in the living room like there's no one there, even when there are people over. And she touches me like I'm a secret, one she's not sure she's allowed to know. Then I asked, and what does she love about you? Maya slowly turned her face from the window to me. She smiled. She says I have a beautiful way of being quiet, that no one she's known has ever been quiet quite like me. Sounds like someone I'd fall for too. Maya looked down and then said, almost to herself, I think my psychologist is wrong. Chapter 11. Teresa. Vietnam, Ho Thuy Tien Park, south of Hue. Tuesday, February 13, 2024, 3:50 p.m. The doctor waited for her beneath the shadow of a flaking dragon, which once spewed steam into the park air. Around them loomed the skeletons of deflated inflatables long collapsed, stagnant puddles, and cracked dolphin statues. Not far away lay a shallow pool with calm gray water. At the pool's edge, in what had once been a colorful kindergarten, two swings that survived the years swayed gently. The carousel creaked in the wind, and genuine children's laughter erupted from a nearby residential area, blending reality with memory. Teresa arrived 10 minutes late. "You're showing me parts of Hugh I never knew. Do you have a fondness for ghost towns? There are places time forgets, but people don't." They sat on a concrete bench, its paint peeling and covered with patches of green moss. The doctor sat beside her silently. She pulled out a brown padded envelope. "These are your pagers." "Not yet," he said quietly, hand frozen midair. "Tell me what was said in the conversation with them." This wasn't a conversation with them. It was a conversation with him. "What did he say?" "I didn't call," she answered, looking down. He showed a flicker of disappointment and sorrow. Teresa continued, "It's hopeless. He's not the kind of person you can sell a product to over a video call. Certainly not 5,000 units. He might think it's a trap." The doctor nodded. "This isn't a trap. He'll thank you later." The two sat in silence. The wind gently shook tattered flags on poles. A statue of a giant turtle wearing a clown's hat looked at them with cracked eyes. "You wanted to see me," she finally said. "You said it was important." "Yes," he spoke slowly, voice calm. "I want to upgrade our offer." She shook her head. "It's not about money," I explained. "I know," he said softly. "That's exactly where I'm headed." He took a breath. BAC, in addition to manufacturing and marketing, operates in other fields. One of them is international relations. Teresa tried to guess where this was going but failed. The doctor rummaged in an inside coat pocket, pulled out another envelope, and handed it to her. "Open it, please." She hesitated but opened it. As soon as she saw the figure in the picture, her body trembled. Her face froze. After a long minute, she looked up at him. "When was this taken?" she asked hoarsely. "A few weeks ago." Her breath caught. She nearly lost balance on the bench. "How is she?" "She's fine." "Where was this photo taken?" "Teresa, I will answer everything for you," the doctor said, quieter than usual. "And I have a lot to tell you. Who took this photo? How did you get it? We need this deal." "Who are we?" she asked, on the verge of tears. She looked again at the picture. BAC Budapest. "And you? Who are you really?" "I'm a salesman for a company that believes it has created the best product on earth. A product that can only bring good and wants to distribute it at all costs." The doctor moved closer. "Teresa, we did our homework before this meeting. We know about your special connection with Michael Perchenko." Teresa's lips trembled. "How is she?" she whispered. "She misses you deeply. Our ultimate goal is to bring you two together. And what stands between me and a mother I haven't seen in 15 years? Is this the deal? With your permission, I would put it differently. We suggest you help us finally reunite you and your mother." "How will you do that?" "We have a well-organized plan. It won't happen here. It will happen in Portugal or Switzerland, immediately upon execution of the pager deal." Teresa's eyes widened. "What is it about these pagers that makes you risk everything? Are you installing surveillance mechanisms?" "Amazing simplicity. That's what we're installing inside. Look, every shipment to Perchenko will be scanned, sampled, and tested thoroughly. These devices will be disassembled. Teresa, listen. You're looking in the wrong place. We only need them to be sold." The doctor leaned in. "And we need to close this deal this week. Michael plans to close with Gold Apollo next Monday. You need to close this first. I can't do this to them. I'm taking a deal from a company I once worked for. You're not taking anything. They're part of the new deal and will get the largest share. For good order, note that they're stepping outside their territory. Michael controls Europe. Europe is ours. Gold Apollo isn't supposed to sell to them directly. We want you to fly out tomorrow. I can't. I have a small child. He wouldn't forgive you if he knew there was a chance to get Grandma, and you missed it. I can't leave you. Find a solution. He pulled out a thicker envelope. There's $20,000 here. Not an advance, just reimbursement for expenses. Teresa didn't answer. She hesitated. Michael will sense something immediately. I'll land on him suddenly. You're not coming because of him. I don't understand. Why am I going? You will understand. Please take this. She reached out hesitantly, took the envelope, and put it in her purse. She looked at the photo again. Can I keep this? You leave me with nothing, he joked. I have no more envelopes. She finally smiled. Yes, you can. This is your mother. I promise to bring you the original soon. Tears welled in her eyes. The doctor continued. Now we deserve a drink in a nice lobby and to talk about Mom. A Guy's House, Sir Moshe. Saturday, October 7th, 2023, 6:24 a.m. The phone vibrated on the nightstand. I reached out and answered. On the other end was a voice I did not recognize. Haggy? Yes. A war has begun. I sat up straight. Invasion. Hamas has launched thousands of missiles. They are breaching the Gaza perimeter. They will come from the right and reach here. I took a breath, and before I could exhale fully, a memory hit me, and my heart skipped a beat. I can't. Nurit woke up. What happened? She asked. Hamas started a war. She sat upright in bed. I'm going south, I said to both the phone and to her. Are you sure? Yes. Where? There's a party at the Riyam Junction. 3,000 young people, and there's no army presence. I said this to both the phone and her, then hung up. I'm coming with you, said Nurit. There will be missiles all over the country. Stay here with him. I opened the drawer and took out my gun and 4 more cartridges. I put the keys in my pocket and opened the door. Before I left, I looked at her. She was already on her feet. Nurit, when you told me, I was worried. So I checked. You should have told me immediately when she messaged you she was going there, not 2 hours later. What would you have done? I would have told her not to go. You don't go to parties inside the crater of a volcano, even if you think it's dormant. Vietnam, hotel lobby Malia Winferl Hua? Hua. Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, 5:43 p.m. The hotel lobby was spacious, bathed in golden light spilling from lotus flower-shaped lamps suspended high, forming pockets of illumination between the lofty wooden ceiling and marble walls. Soft piano music played in the background, muffling conversations and the gentle clinking of cocktail glasses. Teresa and the doctor sat in a quiet corner reserved for guests, on low, wide, dark olive-green armchairs. Behind them, a large window stretched up to the ceiling, revealing the city's low skyline with the Hoa Mountains framed by the muted glow of the setting sun. Teresa sipped slowly. She left China once when I was a child. Came to Taiwan on a temporary passport via Macau. She met my father and stayed. The passport expired, and she became stuck between 2 countries. Illegal here, not a citizen there. She took a sip of her cocktail. The doctor continued for her. In 2009, She received a letter from the Chinese embassy demanding she appear for an interview to update her household registration. She was afraid not to go, so she went. Teresa looked at him in amazement. Right. She was invited for a routine interrogation, that's what they called it. But nothing was routine. She went willingly to the Chinese embassy in Taipei. No sirens, no arrest warrant, just a cream-colored envelope. You probably remember. They kept her in an inner room for hours, gave her water, asked her to fill out a form, ostensibly to update her household registration. But that very evening, a diplomatic vehicle took her from the building. No phone, no family escort. They transported her through Macau via a route that avoided border registration, then by car to Shenzhen. All according to protocol. They didn't call it kidnapping. They called it returning to the province of origin. Teresa closed her eyes as he continued. When they realized she wouldn't cooperate, wouldn't write what they asked, and refused to sign anything, they moved her further away, to a place off the maps, outside consciousness. What did they want her to sign? You know what your grandmother was doing. She traveled villages after the revolution, collecting testimonies of families who disappeared, asking questions the government doesn't want asked. They don't forget that so quickly. And now, she whispered. He looked at her for a long moment and said, a quiet country without a direct border with China, but with tacit consent. A place where it's easy to disappear and difficult to track. What country? He shook his head. I can't say, not yet. He caught her gaze. Teresa, I myself don't know everything. BAC is keeping things from me too. I promise, as soon as I know, you will know. She said nothing, staring out the window at the evening sky. Her cocktail glass remained untouched on the table. The faint scent of citrus and rum dissolved into the stillness. Then she smiled suddenly. Thank you for this chance. You appeared suddenly, and you bring her to me like an angel. Or maybe like... I haven't brought you anything yet, the doctor interrupted. I want you both to hug, not a video call. A hug where you can feel warmth and smell. Until then, our deal isn't complete. After a short silence, he added, I think you have every right to demand strong guarantees. You bring the agreement, and if there is no hug with Mom, BAC violates a key clause. She looked at him with concern, and he added, but don't worry, BAC will uphold its part of the deal. Israel, recording 003. November 20th, 2023, 10:03 p.m. It was a simple image, but it did something to me. Suddenly, I don't know. I remembered that I have hands. I once had someone dance for me. There was someone, no face, no name, just a movement, something, somehow, dancing. I think she turned to me. Israel, October 7th, 2023. Recording from Haggai's car camera. I say these things knowing the car camera's microphone is recording me. I speak even though my throat is choked. This is a disaster trip. I knew from the first call something terrible had happened. But the sights, as I got closer to Gaza, they began to emerge slowly and creakingly, like a nightmare that wouldn't let up. Her phone is off. Beyond my personal pain, which is constantly before my eyes, I cannot help but see what is so clear. This is not just my discrimination. It is the discrimination of an entire country. The road was strewn with evidence of a pogrom. One reason I joined Mossad was to ensure that the word pogrom would never be heard in connection with Jews, not just in Israel, but worldwide. But here it is happening in my own home, an hour's drive from my house. Bodies lying on the road. Men, women, children, babies. Blood flowing everywhere. Bodies inside punctured vehicles. Cars burning by the roadside. Black smoke rising from afar. An occasional ambulance scream pierces the air. The smell of burning tires mixed with something else. All along, the feeling that this is not an event, but an existential disaster. Someone took the country, the life we knew, and crushed it. It's like an invasion of creatures from another planet. The gun lies on the chair beside me, loaded. And all the while, the phones keep ringing. Over and over again, blocked numbers. A firm, unapologetic voice says, "Haggai, come back. Now." At first, I didn't answer. I was paralyzed. But the calls kept coming. One phone call lasted 4 minutes. He spoke slowly and clearly. "Listen carefully. Hundreds of people have been kidnapped. Hamas is taking them across the border into Gaza with no difficulty. Everything is broken. It's a flood. Haggai, you have a responsibility, not just to yourself, not just to your family. You have a responsibility to the Mossad, to your country. Do you know what will happen if you fall into their hands?" I was silent. "In a few minutes, you'll be in the tunnel, passing through Rafah to Egypt, and from there to Tehran. They will make you disappear like Ron Arad. But you are a far more valuable asset. You know too much. They will make you talk." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, nearly stepping into a ditch. His voice softened, becoming paternal. "Haggai, come back. Immediately. This is an order. I'll get to the party area, then come back. Israel, Highway 232, Ream Junction, party site. October 7th, 12:05 p.m. Haggai turned the steering wheel, drove the car out of the parking lot, and pulled over. Gunshots rang in the distance. My hands shook on the steering wheel. He saw everything. Dozens of open cars. Girls lying exposed. Some embracing. Some half naked. Tied to trees. Some he didn't want to see. Boys, dozens, hundreds. Haggai, come back immediately. I'm not going back without her. Israel, Haggai's house, Surmasha. An entry from the Journal of Haggai, head of the Technology Division. Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022, 2 a.m. On nights like these, the pool becomes my refuge. The blue lights, the touch of the water. Today, out of the blue, I received a text from Noah. "Dad, one of my students' phones rang during class. A 12-year-old boy with a ringtone that'll knock you off your feet. Island of Dreams by the Spring Fields." He couldn't understand why I smiled instead of scolding him. "Love you?" I was between meetings, sitting with Maya, and I felt so light inside that I showed her the message. Later, at lunch, she must have seen that my face was still beaming, and she said, "And you were afraid you were losing her." True, but we've always shared something wonderful. "Music," she said. "Of course. My love for the 60s rubbed off on her. Just like I inherited it from my father, and he from his. Moses received the Torah at Sinai and passed it on to Joshua, who passed it on to the elders," Maya smiled. "Yes, there's a kind of holiness in that music too. I played her everything. The guitar solo from Deep Purple's Anthem, for me, one of the high points of all solos. It doesn't have the virtuosity of Chicago, but it holds something heavenly. Van der Graaf Generator. And of course, I was the first to introduce her to Stairway to Heaven. And she loved it? Very much. We used to listen to Jethro Tull in the car, back and forth. She'd sit in the back, eyes shining, asking questions, absorbing every story. The legendary tale of my dad who ditched school with Chaim Zeveda to go see A Hard Day's Night over and over again. About Peter Fonda asking Bob Dylan to write a song for Easy Rider, and Dylan scribbling a line on a napkin, handing it to Fonda and saying, "Give this to Roger McGuinn. He'll know what to do with it." "What was the line?" Maya asked. "The river flows, it flows to the sea. Wherever that river goes, that's where I want to be." The touch of the water in the pool was soothing. I took a deep breath, plunged my head underwater, and swam freestyle to the other side without coming up for air. I made sure my legs kicked vigorously, up and down. "Maybe she was just being polite," Maya said. "There are so many kinds of music today." That's what I thought too. But then I found out she was still listening to it, even on her own. One day she asked if we could buy her a guitar. She learned on her own, no teacher. I'd listen from the other room as her fingers whispered across the strings. "House of the Rising Sun, Stairway to Heaven." Then she used her savings to buy an electric guitar and a small amp. And one night, when I came home late, she called me to her room and played Ritchie Blackmore's solo. And I couldn't stay to respond. "Why not?" Maya asked. "It's not easy for a father when tears start to fall." Later, when I hugged her, she told me she knew why I'd left the room. She also loved Donovan's colors. She played softly, almost whispered, "Yellow is the color of my true love's hair." I floated on my back dot, reflecting on the conversation with Maya, staring up at the stars, and I hummed. Freedom is a word I rarely use without thinking. Without thinking. Of the time. Of the time when I've been loved. "I never really understood that verse," Maya said. "What does he mean?" "He almost never uses the word freedom unless he's remembering moments when he was loved. The rest of the time, that word is hollow for him. When you're alone, you're free. Free to do anything. Go anywhere. Choose. But if no one loves you, no one truly feels you, then that freedom can turn into a kind of bondage." "Bondage to what?" Maya asked. "To yourself," I said. "To endless motion without an anchor. To the need to invent meaning every single morning. To laughing with no one there to meet your eyes. To sending words into space and hoping someone will hear." "And you, Maya? Has Corinne changed what the word freedom means to you?" Maya tilted her head slightly, her eyes drifting toward the window as if searching for the right words. "I told you I used to feel a little suffocated by her love. She went to visit her parents in France for a week, and now I feel like I can't breathe." I took a long breath, as if borrowing the air she was missing, and slipped beneath the surface, letting the water carry me, and swam toward the soft blue light I love the best.